All right, guys. Welcome everybody. Guys, this is going to be a quick live, okay? I want to show you what is actually happening in Ivory Coast so you guys can have an idea of what we're talking about because there's an ongoing unrest in Ivory Coast, massive protest because this current president Alassane Ouattara has banned all the opposition figures that were supposed to contest in the elections. So they all came together and organized a massive protest. And let me let you see what is going on. And what whilst we looking at what is going on there, I want you guys to remember that the current chairman of ECOWAS is pretty silent. All right. So listen to this.
And for the last story, let's turn our attention to the Ivory Coast. The country is reeling under a political crisis, barely a few months before the presidential vote in October, and the exclusion of opposition leaders from the upcoming polls has further fueled public outrage. Earlier this year, four main opposition figures, President Ouattara's main rivals, were barred from running by the Electoral Commission. Now, these include the former president, Laurent Gbagbo, and the former Credit Suisse chief executive, Tijane Thiam.
All right, guys. So now that you have an idea of what I'm talking about, but what I want to show you again is for you to see what the chairman of the heads of state, the authority of heads of state of West Africa, ECOWAS, is doing, right? And he's silent about this whole thing, which is what I want to share with you guys. And this is Julius Malavio. This is his Twitter page. It was in Ivory Coast the other day. And this is what he wrote. All right, on his Twitter page when he visited Ivory Coast. Nothing about what is actually happening in Ivory Coast, the banning of opposition figures and all of that. That is not what he's talking about. Busy traveling. These guys are all puppets, remember that. So, of course, they're not going to condemn themselves because at this point in time, Julius Malabio probably might try to see if he can go for a third term himself. And that is something to watch for because all of these dictators are his friends. You look at what is happening in Togo, Yasimbe Yadema. I mean, Alassane Ouattara, this is going to be his third time trying to run, even though the people of Ivory Coast don't want that to happen. And you're going to see more videos that I'll share with you. But I just want you to know that whilst all of this is happening, Julius Matabio is silent, is quiet about this whole thing. And I'm going to read his Twitter page so you guys can see exactly what I'm talking about. So you have an idea of what I'm talking about. So you can see the hypocrisy of these guys, in Africa. In Africa, until the people of Africa stand up to do the right thing. And when I see these protests, let me just give you guys like a preamble here. Because a lot of times the problem in Africa, a lot of the people that are protesting now, would they protest if the coin was flipped, right? Would they protest? Because we know what the problem in Africa is like tribalism, religion, partisanship is a big problem. It's not about patriotism to country per se. It is because, again, a lot of these opposition people, because they are political parties that are in power. So that is why, you'll see them, say they're going to protest. It is not about being patriotic to the country. It's not about standing up for common good of every Ivorian a lot of times, or not for the common good of every citizen in their country. I hope you guys understand what I'm saying. Because again, nepotism, tribalism, right? Religion, partisanship. People worship their political parties, and they don't stand behind ideologies to say that it's about the country, right? So when I see these protests in Africa, I'm not so thrilled because a lot of times it's just opposition folks. Sometimes people even protest not even know what they're protesting for, but a lot of times it's just opposition. And if they're on the other side of the coin, if their political party was in power, they would not even protest. So that is what I want to point out to you guys so you guys will understand exactly what I'm talking about. But let me show you what the chairman of the of ECOWAS, when he visited Ivory Coast, this is what he talked about, right? And I want you all to see this because it's very important for us to have an idea of what we're dealing with because then it gives you guys an insight into the situation that we have in Africa at this point in time, and it's very important, right? So let me show you this. Let me read this together. Let's read this together. As chairperson, again, this is the chairman of the Authority of Heads of State of West Africa, ECOWAS. He visited, Ivory Coast, as you can see here on the 11th, which was yesterday. All right, I'm going to show you the photos, but this is his Twitter page, who is currently the legal president of Sierra Leone. As chairperson of the Authority of Heads of State and Government of ECOWAS, I had a very productive meeting with my brother, His Excellency Alassane Ouattara, in Abidjan. We discussed important issues impacting our sub-region and expressed our commitment to enhancing collaboration in a regional bloc. Together, we are dedicated to fostering greater security, stability, and economic prosperity for all. And this is the thing. You see how these guys use these words? They shroud everything. It is never anything transparent, like the people of Africa, like Ivorians would not even know the detail. This is something where you would say, as the chairman of, ECOWAS, it should be a straight talk. Hey, I had a conversation with the president of Ivory Coast. We discussed issues along, banning political party opponents, as it's currently, causing a lot of tension in the country. Therefore, we discuss this and see how they can, mend this issue so that it doesn't escalate, beyond. But they will shroud words and play with words because what is Julius Maada going to tell Alassane Ouattara? To say, hey, allow these opposition figures to run? No, because these guys are all just puppets. These guys are all together. They're all in the same boat. This is what they do. They're excited about it. They want to stay in power forever. So they're collaborating amongst themselves. Therefore, you would never see these guys condemning themselves publicly and openly. It is rare. I don't think I've ever seen that. If somebody has seen that, you can remind me of another African president who has stood up, especially in his capacity as chairman of ECOWAS, right? That gives him the authority to speak on issues like this. Because again, we want across West Africa for there to be peace and stability. And I want you to listen to this video from these reports from there's a brother of mine, a Ghanaian guy. I want you to listen to him. If you haven't seen him, he's on YouTube as well. Listen to him how he breaks down this whole thing. It'll give you a better insight. Listen to this.
How do you disallow the main opposition candidate from contesting in a national election and expect to have peace in a country? This is a question to the president of the Ivory Coast, Alassane Ouattara. How do you expect calm and security in your country when the very person that can compete you and win in the election has been barred, ladies and gentlemen? Can't you see you are setting the stage for a coup? By the way, I'm going to read from his own statement why he is running again as president of the Ivory Coast. It's just ridiculous, folks.
Exactly.
Already you are attempting to run for your fourth term in office, which the people are not in support of.
All right.
And now you add insult to injury. What is the president of Ivory Coast trying to achieve here? He did not only disqualify the main opposition leader, but 6 other parties were disqualified from contesting. And he did not just disqualify.
Picture that. All of that. But yet, the chairman of ECOWAS, the illegal president of Sierra Leone currently, has nothing to say publicly. And by the way, this is something that it should put out a statement condemning the fact that political parties in Ivory Coast are being banned from competing in elections. But of course, why would he say anything public when the same man, when he was legally the president of Sierra Leone, in parliament, they passed the Political Party Act and they banned all small political parties in Sierra Leone because technically that's what it was. They put, the laws that were put in place made it virtually impossible for small political parties to even contest elections in Sierra Leone because they want to control the space, the two main political parties. That's it. So why would he say anything to Alassane Ouattara if he's banning all of these other political parties? That is what I want you guys to understand, and that is what is at stake. And this is why he's traveling very silent. If you look at him, he also visited Togo. Again, this is some of the photos like I wanted to share with you guys so you guys can see some of the photos he took with Alassane Ouattara. These are the photos he took with Alassane Ouattara whilst he was in Ivory Coast, right? See, all this meeting. What are they talking about? Nothing that is going to affect, positively the lives of the people of Ivory Coast. These are the photos that they took. Would we hear these conversations and see what they talked about? Would he address the issue head on with Alassane Ouattara about banning political parties, banning opposition leaders, because he knows he's going to lose the elections if they contest? These are realities. It shouldn't be shrouded in secrecy. It should be open. It should be in communique. It should be in press releases, from the office of the chairman of the Authority of Heads of State of West Africa. Because the reason why we're saying this, look at what he did. It went to Togo, right? Before this whole thing, it went to Togo. Let's see what was he doing in Togo. Let's go to the visit in Togo. And in Togo, you all know exactly what happened recently. You all know about the protests in Togo, right? You all know about the people that were killed in Togo, right? And you saw all of those. Would you put out a statement publicly? I know you have the commission, yeah, but as the chairman of, heads of state of, West Africa, Would he say anything publicly to condemn the killings of Togolese? No, nothing publicly, because again, these guys are all puppets. These guys are all puppets, and they are protecting themselves. Because the reason is, they will tell you that I don't want to get involved in, the other country's issue, right? What is happening in Togo? I don't want to get involved in that. That is what they'll tell you. But the fact is, they all don't condemn themselves because they want it to happen. Remember what happened in Togo, the amount of people that were killed, right? People lost their lives senselessly in Togo. They were killing, murdering the citizens, beating them up. We saw these videos on WhatsApp, right? That came through social media. Take a
Once
look
a
at this.
rare sight in Togo's capital Lomé, protests are becoming frequent. The government, led by Faure Gnassingbé, banned them 3 years ago. He's ruled for 20 years. Recent constitutional changes allow him to stay in power for life. Demonstrators want him to go.
He should step aside and let someone else lead. You can't keep ruling us by force forever. Let someone else prove what they can do.
Demonstrators blocked roads all over the city and in several other towns after
So I wanted to show you guys that. The amount of people that were killed in Togo. But yet, Julius Maada was in Togo. Let's see what he talked about. Let's read what he talked about in Togo. He said, I am in Togo meeting with my friend. Everybody is his friend. Of course, every head of state, my friend. And His Excellency Fori Isozimna Yasimbe. We are committed to strengthening regional cooperation for heightened security and economic prosperity in the regional bloc. As chairperson of the Authority of Heads of State and Government, I will continue to work with member states as we pursue stronger regional integration and reinforce a thriving ECOWAS. Nothing about the killings of the Togolese that protested. Why would Julius Maada Bio, the current illegal president of Sierra Leone, talk about protest when he himself has killed citizens in Sierra Leone protesting? So he has no business condemning other African leaders, for killing their people because they protested. And again, it's in their constitution. But Yasimbe has banned protest 3 years ago. And the world is watching. All of the international partners are watching. They know it's unconstitutional. They know it's wrong. Because protest is a guaranteed right. Every citizen has the right to, a right to liberty, the pursuit of happiness. It is enshrined, across the world, right? But we see what is actually happening in these countries. The people don't have rights to protest. But the chairperson of the authorities of heads of state of West Africa, ECOWAS, Julius Maada Bio, is traveling to these countries, not even mentioning, not for one, condemn what happened in Togo, the killings, the assassinations of protesters. They couldn't put out a statement categorically from the office of the chairman of the authority of heads of state. You don't see these kinds of things. And if Africa is going to progress, if Africa is going to move, it is the people of Africa that should be a lot more serious than they are right now. You have civil society organizations that are useless. You have these people that have no clue of what democracy really is. They have succumbed to the whims and caprices of these terroristic leaders that we have across West Africa and Africa as a whole. And they continue to destroy the lives and the opportunities of African people. But I wanted to expose to you guys so you guys can see exactly what is going on amidst the controversy in Ivory Coast. Let's listen to this news together. Let's listen to this.
Now, angry and frustrated with the Commission's decision, last week thousands of Ivorians took to the streets of Abidjan.
We are demanding a revision of the electoral roll. We are demanding the reintegration of political leaders onto the list. We are demanding reform of the Electoral Commission. We are calling for fair elections in 2025. All these grievances have not been addressed by the government. So we came out to demand that the government reform its constitution.
Earlier this year, Gbagbo and Tiam joined forces to challenge Ouattara, who is seeking a fourth term. Ouattara's candidacy is contested after he changed the constitution in 2016 to remove presidential term limits.
There is no distinction of political party. We are one people, and we have come to say yes and yes to the re-registration of President Laurent Gbagbo and President Tidjane Thiam, and no to a fraudulent act, no to a fourth term.
Ouattara, you need to come so we can talk. Soro must return. Laurent Gbagbo is here. Tidjane Thiam is here. Charles Ble Goude. Everyone, we need to talk and move forward. Let's avoid bloodshed because bloodshed is not good.
Despite severe backlash and unrest across the country, Ouattara remains determined to seek a fourth term. The 83-year-old president has justified his decision to run by saying that the country is facing unprecedented security, economic and monetary challenges that require experience to manage them effectively.
You see what I'm saying? So this is the thing. Now, all of these international partners, they are watching this. But of course, do we want America to be policing, what is happening in Africa? And the Ivorian people are doing the right thing by stepping up and going out into the streets and protest. And this is the beautiful thing about the French folks. French West Africa don't play. They are serious about their democracy. But in the English-speaking Africans, especially, well, except for Liberia and Ghana, where they are very, very, serious people. But when you take countries like Sierra Leone today, like there's no protest in Sierra Leone, it's dead. If you see a protest, it is government machinated. If you see a protest, it is either the first lady is actually leading the protest, or people loyal to the first lady, leading the protest, or in support of the president. But something you see market women protesting, they, of course, it's controlled chaos, but when real citizens that are aggrieved about what is actually happening, you see these guys coming out with all the weapons and ammunitions, to kill citizens because they don't respect the rights to protest. That is what is actually happening. So now you look at this guy, 83 years old, Alassane Ouattara, and he's telling the citizens of Ivory Coast that they don't have experience to take care of the problems facing Ivory Coast. He's the only one that has the experience to take care of the country. And he has banned his opposition figures. Thiam and Laurent Gbagbo has been banned. And if you guys know much about Ivory Coast, you'll remember about, I think, probably over 10, 12 years ago now, when they had elections between the same Alassane Ouattara and Gbagbo, they claimed over 3,000 lives. Of course, Laurent Gbagbo was arrested, later, even though he said he claimed he won the elections, and it was, the ICC, criminal court, and all of that. But these people are sitting by and watching Ivory Coast deteriorating in terms of security right now because this protest is going to keep going on. And when you see this much people coming out in the streets to protest, they are determined, they are ready. And what's going to happen? It's going to end up with lives getting lost. But yet, the chairman of the ECOWAS, heads of authority of ECOWAS, has nothing to say publicly to condemn the fact that opposition figures are being, banned from contesting elections in Ivory Coast. And that the 83-year-old president wants to go for a fourth term after he removed, presidential term limits in the constitution in 2016. So I say all of this to Sierra Leoneans. At this point, it's like we're at the mercy of Madabio. Because again, remember, this is a man who is in power currently illegally. He did not win the elections. But the opposition said, hey, we're going to let him go on. Who is going to stop Julius Madabio if he wants to go for a third term? Who is going to stop Julius Madabio if he wants to change the constitution? When this man is already a puppet. I'm saying all of this to Sierra Leoneans. But of course, we've had the brutal rebel war. But you wouldn't say Ivory Coast had a brutal rebel war. But the fact of the matter is, Ivory Coast had, what happened as well with they had, I don't think theirs was as terrible as ours, but they had an unrest as well after that elections and everything else. So I'm asking Sierra Leoneans, who's going to stop Julius Madabio? Because look at the playbook. All of these guys that he's actually aligning himself with are dictators. They've changed constitutions. They've extended presidential term limits. No more limits. You can run for as long as you want to run. Who's going to stop him? Julius Madabio has the civil society organizations. You would say, hey, Ibrahim, probably you're putting some, dangerous ideology into Madabio's head. I mean, of course, there are Sierra Leoneans that would not accept that. There are people that are prepared and ready to go to war. I mean, there are people that are ready to make sure they defend that democracy, and that's not going to happen. But I'm just saying, for the past 7 years, everything Julius Madabio wanted, he got. We have a feckless opposition, bunch of useless bunch of idiots. These guys are just absolutely no good for themselves. They're no good to themselves. They're nothing but greedy and selfish. It's all about what they get. So these are the realities of what we're saying. And this is what I'm sharing. This is what I'm sharing with you guys so everybody can pay attention to what is actually happening. Ivory Coast is on rampage. Togo recently, now they've coiled the protest, but they killed so many people. Julius Malabio went over there, and what is he talking about, right? Nothing. No public condemnation from the chairman of the Authority of Heads of State of West Africa, ECOWAS, chairman of ECOWAS, the president of ECOWAS. No public condemnation. Not even a serious condemnation from the commission itself, attacking the fact that peaceful protesters were killed. This is why Africa, you cannot even find peaceful protests because when the police comes out, they get more violent than the people that are actually protesting. But yet these leaders come overseas. They're with these foreign leaders. Of course, they don't want Africa to be better. They don't want Africa to do anything good. This is something my friend Cashbox talks about all the time. They don't want Africa to do anything better. That's why in Sierra Leone, it's been 2 years, 1 month, and today is the 12th, about 18 days. Manabio has been in power illegally and unconstitutionally. And nobody, the international partners, everybody is complacent, acting like they don't know what's happening until something breaks out, until mayhem, confusion, pandemonium breaks out. Then is it, oh, intervention time. Let's bring some food and drinks for the people of Sierra Leone. But they would not stop these bad actions. Listen to how my friend here, this guy from Ghana, breaks down, this whole thing. Listen to this. Let me let this advertisement pass by. But this is what is actually happening. So let's see how this guy breaks it down.
For our youth and women, similar reasons were also mentioned by the president of Cameroon as to his reason for wanting another term in office after already being there for 42 years.
Exactly.
Ladies and gentlemen.
Ivory Coast.
Last month, he tweeted on X that the well-being of our youth and women will be at the heart of my priorities. Together, there are no challenges we cannot meet. End of quote. Coming from Paul Biya.
Right.
Forgetting that he has become the challenge to overcome.
All right.
The current situation in the Ivory Coast is just so ripe for a coup, if you didn't know. Something which should have never gotten to that stage.
Absolutely.
There are rumors of a fraction of the Ivorian army in support of the coup. If that happens to be true, ladies and gentlemen, it's only a matter of time because the elections are some 2 months away.
2 months
if
away.
This protest continues for this week.
So election is 2 months away in Ivory Coast, but this guy has banned all the opposition leaders using the institutions. These are citizens of Ivory Coast that should know that we've come a long way. We had a brutal, uprising a couple of years ago due to rigged elections, but these are the same people doing the same things. And this chairman, your chairman, Marabio, is sitting by, visiting these leaders and have nothing to say. Look at him in Ivory Coast. He's in Togo, never publicly condemning the killing of protesters, never condemning the banning of opposition figures. And now Ivory Coast is on the brink of having another rebellion because these people are not going to sit by and watch Alassane Ouattara ban their political leaders. So let's take a look at this. Let's take a look at this.
And the president doesn't avert his decision on the disqualification of the opposition parties, especially their candidate, it will most likely turn violent. President Ouattara's fear of losing the election actually became a real thing the moment Tijani Thiem and Laurent Gbagbo united their parties. Remember, earlier this year, Gbagbo.
So you see what is actually happening, right? And I like this guy's analysis because, sometimes it's nice to give you guys another perspective so you see exactly where I'm coming from. But the chairman of the Authority of Heads of State, silent, no public statements condemning those actions. What is actually happening now in Ivory Coast, they're going to wait until it escalates and then they kill 200-300 people, quell the protest. And of course, again, Ivory Coast has a history of having, armed combatants that have played with weapons and they know what to do. And so, just because of one greedy old 83-year-old Alassane Ouattara, Ivory Coast might go down. And Ivory Coast is doing very well in terms of infrastructure. Ivory Coast they've done really well. But still, nobody has the right to hold on to power. allow the space to be free and democratic. That is what democracy is all about, right? Let the people continue to make decisions for themselves. But no, these guys want to make decisions for the people. That is the path that these leaders are going now in Africa. And this is why it's very crucial. And this is why it's very important for people like myself to come out here and talk to you guys and educate you all. But of course, I know it doesn't sound strange. It is not the first time you're hearing something like that. I'm sure you've heard that before multiple times, and we keep talking about the same things. But this is the reality of what is actually happening across Africa. And this is why we, the people of Africa, have to step up like the people of Ivory Coast are doing. In Sierra Leone, we've allowed a few set of people to control the narrative, take away the rights of the citizens, take away their democratic rights, take away their political rights, take away their civil rights. In Sierra Leone today, if you don't dance to the tune of these political, crooks and thieves, you're on your own. So they've actually just you have the less than 1% up there controlling everything else, using the military and the police against the rest of the 90% of the population, against the 95% of the population. That is what is actually happening in Sierra Leone. And that is the reality on the ground. And it's not only Sierra Leone, but it's happening across Africa. And that is why it's important for us as people to really pay attention to these things. Let's continue to listen to my friend here.
Gbagbo was disqualified from running in the election by the electoral system in the Ivory Coast. It was his wife who was actually contesting, and she isn't seen as a real threat in the election by the electoral system in the Ivory Coast.
Let me rewind this for you.
The moment Tijani Thiem and Laurent Gbagbo united their parties. Remember, earlier this year, Gbagbo was disqualified from running in the election by the electoral system in the Ivory Coast. It was his wife who was actually contesting, and she isn't seen as a real threat in the competition. But former President Laurent Gbagbo didn't give up. He went and joined forces with Thiem in June, and that was when Ouattara considered barring them both from running.
Exactly.
He has barred the two individuals and not their united party.
Exactly.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is what has angered the millions of people in the country. Gbagbo still has a lot of following. There are many people who still hold to the belief that life in the Ivory Coast under Laurent Gbagbo was far better than their current state. Ladies and gentlemen, there is no justification whatsoever as to why Thiem should be barred from contesting.
No justification.
He is the main contender, and he will most likely win in this year's election.
Exactly.
The people of the Ivory Coast must stand their grounds until they see his face.
But this is the reality. But what is the chairman of the Authority of Heads of State doing? Is traveling across these countries and just not saying anything serious. Look at him in Ivory Coast, saying nothing serious. As chairperson of the Authority of Heads of State and Government of ECOWAS, I had a very productive meeting with my brother, His Excellency Alassane Ouattara, in Abidjan. We discussed important issues impacting our sub-region and expressed our commitments to enhancing, collaboration as a regional bloc. Together, we are dedicated to fostering greater security, stability, and economic prosperity for all. Vague words. Public condemnation. They would never do it. Condemn this man for what he has done to banning opposition leaders in the country. Public statement. As chairman of the authorities of heads of states, but they would not do it because they are puppets. That is the reality of what is actually happening on the ground in Africa. But I wanted to share this with you so you guys can see exactly what is going on. Whilst the chairman of the Authority of Heads of State, the president of Sierra Leone, is illegally occupying office because he himself does not even have a result to justify how he won the elections. I want you guys to see this. There is no result to justify the disaggregated data, polling station by polling station, that would show exactly how this man won the elections. There is nothing to show. It does not have a result. The ECSL commissioner does not have a result. So you see how these guys are all puppets? And everybody's sitting by and watching them. In Sierra Leone today, we're still hopeful that the presidency will be handed over to the man who won the elections. But it looks like nothing is happening. But they say something is happening underneath. We don't know what is happening. But this man is there, perambulating and roaming around as chairman of the authorities of Heads of State of West Africa, but nothing public that would actually condemn the violent actions of these leaders, the leader in Togo and that of Ivory Coast. Togo killed his people the other day. Yasimbe Yadema killed their people. You've seen those videos. kill their people for protesting because they exchanged constitutional laws, ban people from protesting. These guys know all of these things. No leader would come out publicly to condemn what is actually happening. And this is why we have the ECOWAS. We have these institutions in place to protect the citizens. But no, they're all buddies, they're all friends. You see in the tweets, everything is I met my friends. When he went to Ivory Coast, you see, I met my friend, the chairperson. I had a very productive meeting with my brother. You know, the Ivory Coast is his brother. You see that? My brother. When he went to Togo, it's my friend. You see? So look at him right here in Togo. Oh, my I met with my friend right there. You see? So everybody's a brother, everybody's a friend. Mhm. That should not take away from the fact that these public statements condemning their violent actions, should be put out. But they're all together. But I'm happy for the people of Ivory Coast that they've taken, to the streets to protest, what is actually happening in their country, and hopefully they would, stand victorious because in 2 months from now the elections is going to be there, and I'm hoping that the people would have their way, and that would be the end of that. But there's another video I want to share with you guys because it's very disgusting, and this goes back to the corruption of these civil society organizations that I want you to see. And this is just gonna switch into the next issue I want to talk about, and because I don't really want to be a part of this nonsense, Kokoro's foolishness that is currently going on in Sierra Leone. But what I want to show you guys is, and it's this, right? I want to talk about this real quick. The corrupt civil society puppets in Sierra Leone, defend, Fatima Bio. I want to share this with you because it goes back to what I tell you guys about the fact that these guys are not serious in Sierra Leone. If you want to see protest, it is either it's coming from them. So they are the selected few, right? They are better than every one of us or the rest of the citizens in Sierra Leone. Because if you want to protest, if it's not coming from them, at that echelon, then your protest is violent and you will be dealt with up until, you will be killed because we saw it during the August 8th, 9th, and 10th protest, which is, of course, has been a couple of years since and people have been celebrating that. But this is the video that I want you guys to see of these women that went to parliament. All right. I want you guys to see this video for yourself. This is a disgrace, to our country. But I want you guys to see this for yourself. All right, let's watch this together.
One people, one country. Me not the together president.
Yes, yes.
Me not the together president. Yes. I come for tell Salon say the one that wake up parliament here when they come.
And again, guys, just to give you guys context about this. This is, and I'm sure if you're online, you've heard about this whole song called Ikokoroso, and they've been singing against Fatima Bio, the First Lady. Apparently, she's been responding on social media, and this has really distracted Sierra Leoneans from the actual issues, But I really would have never talked about that if not for this video that I saw of these women, and this kind of ties into what I just talked about. How you see in Ivory Coast, the people are protesting. Civil society organizations are joining the people to protest. We saw it in Togo as well. Liberians are good with this. Ghanaians are good with these kinds of things. Civil society organizations are independent and free, right? They can do what they want to do, and nobody's going to stop them. But in Sierra Leone today, all of the civil society organizations, they're either from the Mende ethnic groups, and a lot of them, or they're SLPP members, and their loyalty lies to their political party. It is not to their country. Fact. All right? Fact. Watch the civil society, the ones that are civil society activists that have a little bit of a name, the Andrew Lavali, the Ibrahim Tomi, the Abdul Fatoma, all of these people, it is either they're SLPP party loyalists or they are from the Mende ethnic group in Sierra Leone, from the southern part of the country. because the SLPP, the Sierra Leone People's Party, is their own political party, and it emanates from the South, more or less. They have more support, broad support from the South. Of course, not all the Mende people support this nonsense and foolishness that is going on in Sierra Leone, but of course, you have a few bad eggs that are giving the rest of the Mendes a very terrible reputation. But this is a fact in Sierra Leone. So you look at these civil society organizations, again, it is either they're SLPP party loyalists because they are not loyal to the country. Section 13B of the 1991 Constitution really makes it very clear, where it talks about, every citizen shall cultivate a sense of nationalism and patriotism so that your loyalty should lie to the state and not to your political parties, any other loyalties. Let me read that for you. Let me put that for you on screen so you guys can see what I'm talking about. This is Section 13B of the Constitution, of Section 13 of the Constitution of Sierra Leone, duties of a citizen, right? As you can see, I go straight to B. I love B. I always deal with B. And this is what B says to you. Cultivate a sense, every citizen shall cultivate a sense of nationalism and patriotism, right? So that your loyalty to the state shall override sectional, ethnic, tribal, or other loyalties. But I always put it in a simple term, right? So your loyalty should be to your country, not to your tribe, your political party, and all of that stuff. But without much ado, let us watch this video of these women. Listen to them, because I really wanted to give you guys context so you understand what I'm talking about. That these women can go into parliament and be able to protest. That they can enter parliament and protest. They were given badges, visitor badges, because they are protesting in defense of Fatima Bill, because they claim that members of parliament at their foolish parliamentary opening, which is of course an illegal parliament, all of that, the books of history is going to define those moments. This illegal opening of parliament recently is illegal. It's not going to go down in the books of history. History is going to be reversed. At some point, one day, this parliament is illegal. Therefore, the opening of parliament recently is illegal and it should not make it down the books of history. However, they did have one, and they said the first lady did not stand up or whatever the nonsense, and they sang kokoros against her, and she's pissed off, she's upset. Foolishness. I don't want to talk about that because there are pressing issues to talk about. However, when I saw these women, these civil society organizations protesting for her, I just want to paint the picture that I just talked about when I tell you that in Sierra Leone, you can only protest if you are part of the class of people that are allowed to protest. The actual citizens that are suffering, that are going through pain. By the way, People's Power, welcome, my brother. These people cannot protest because they'll be killed. And thanks to Kamara Kadiatu as well, and C. James Kagbo making a point there. Anyways, but listen to this video because I wanted to give you guys context. Listen to this.
Together they will not accept. We not agree, President Bio. We need your intervention into this sewer. Thank you.
I've never seen a bunch of people that are so idle and useless in Sierra Leone like these ones. For my brothers in Africa, please allow me to switch to my patois a little bit. Let me talk in Creole to my people. I not see people in Africa that are as useless as some of the Sierra Leoneans that we have. That these people would take their time to go to parliament, to go and go call on President Bio. First of all, just picture the foolishness and the uselessness. We're talking about a husband and a wife in the first place. Whatever disagreements they have should stay indoors. But of course, just because the wife brings it out does not mean we have to carry all that nonsense. But then people are so useless that they left them business for go protest because they're seeing kukuros from Fatima Bio. This is how you know a nation that is not ready. And Sierra Leoneans are going to keep suffering. And these are going to suffer. So these people don't even get access to hospital. They don't even get access to proper healthcare needs for women in another country. These sick Jesus or some sick now way, need serious intervention. Without, it might not even get money pass it big. For say, remember me when we go protest for Fatima Bio? That's pass it big, but she calls herself a trader. These people would suffer. And the sad part is, it's not only for them picking them we get for suffer, but then grand picking and get for continue for suffer. For as long as we have this rotten system going on, and until this system is cleaned up and totally eviscerated, or until we totally wipe them off completely, there is no way Sierra Leone is going to be a better country, in the near future. Sierra Leone is finished because these are the caliber and these are the levels of people that we have. This is how they think. These are shallow-minded. You won't, you don't blame them people there, but sometimes common sense is just so pertinent. Because how do you leave everything what you do because there's 5 per, per first lady? The most stupid thing ever in my life. These people in that country, the prices of commodities, the prices of fuel and everything. Look at Edmond Habu fighting for reduction in fuel price. We all know see once fuel price increase, I mean it reverberates across the economy. With petrol price expensive, everybody's gonna feel it. Every aspect, therefore feel them. Even you Maggi go up because everything runs on transportation. So if the petrol on there, drivers then get for charge more. In business they suffer and it passes down to the general population, and these are the same people that are probably crying, constantly crying about the hardship and the difficulty, but they are willing to subject themselves to this level of depravity and foolishness and absolute stupidity for come for go organize and lead a protest in defense of Fatima Bio because they sing Kokoros Param. That is the nation that we have. No electricity, no clean drinking water. They will not protest about those realities. Sanitation. Look at this. She might be doing well because of their trader. But go look at them outside and they live. Go look where these people live. Go look at them bathroom them. Go look at their latrine where they use. They are sick with typhoid, malaria, all kinds of communicable diseases because there is no proper infrastructure in the country. They would not, they need protest. I don't know if I can talk Creole English now, so today, but they need protest for anything a day. Then they protest for them problem and they wouldn't get. Some of them picking for go school just and get for complaining for how things are expensive. The uniform, when they say free education, one of they accept again free education, again. Now they say feed salon, even that day. Price of rice expensive. The meat rest from 200,000, it don't go almost 1.5 million. The other they say now it did down to 600,000. They say some place nonsense. Election was stolen. The result is not there. That woman there, no protest for that day. But then go to Parliament, the well of Parliament, they give them badges. They allow them as visitors for come inside Parliament. They come and protest in Parliament. But if serious citizens wants to protest the reality of what is actually happening, they will not allow them to protest. This is the reality that we're dealing with in Sierra Leone, and which is why it's very important that we point out things like these so that the world would understand and the world would know. But this is why we do what we do. But listen to these idiots. Listen to these idiots.
Intervention into this thing will happen at Parliament because we not greet today, we not greet tomorrow. We sit down with the wait for you, for hearing from you. What thing they happen, make we know. You say you can for protect with the woman there, but we don't see humiliation.
Talking about protecting the women there. I don't even have time to play all the videos here of women being assaulted. I mean, I'm not going to even talk about, of course, the useless current mayor who was abused multiple times by this administration. Whole day painting lip red. I wouldn't talk about Miss Femi Claude, assaulted by this administration. Sata Lamin was gang raped by 7 men in Kailahun near Dehun village. They gang raped Sata Lamin, put their hand in a private part. All of those videos. They removed her womb. Sata Lamin, a woman. Till this day, Marabio, Fatima Bio has never mentioned Sata Lamin. They know what was done to her. Then they displaced women. Women were displaced across that country. These idiots never came out to protest. They know about the case of Sata Lamin. I can play that video for them right now. They will not even budge to protest for Sata Lamin, to protest for the woman them. Like Kenem already drive them because they support APC party. So women them, August 8, 9, and 10, July 4th, the women that protested, all of those videos are here, are there. If you guys follow my WhatsApp channel, by the way, it is all there. You can go on WhatsApp and search for my channel, Ibrahim Fona, Ibrahim Civics Club. I post those kinds of videos so you guys would see it. I don't have time now to do that, but I want to show you these are the realities of what we're dealing with. So these idiots, they go protest. They are protesting because why? They belong to the class. They don't really belong to the class because Fatima, beyond a normal circumstances, will not even deal with these filthy people because that's how she will see them. Under normal circumstances, she would not deal with them. You don't deal with them again. But of course, she needs them. So when they need them, then go to them. You probably go inside that room, they start ultimate up. So the sweat smell alone where they hit you. Except if the AC they run cold one. Because it's sweat sensor for go hit you first. These are the people that are going there to go dance for, they go protest for Fatima Bio. who's living affluent lifestyle, has millions of dollars now in their possession. Then they go protest because they're cinco coros para. While people are dying out there, women, the prostitution rate in the country, then why the woman they wait up on prostitution and bakute, the prostitution rate don't high. Them beginning they come out high school now self before they finish high school self, they don't begin man business. Family don't rely on them girl picking them for taking care of the rest of the family. They go sleep with man, them give them money, then come, then feed the rest of the family. The girl people don't even know what for do anymore. The one that we go college, okay, they for make them through college, they go to college and they harass them in the back. Professors, them lecturers, them are raping these girls, force them, grade for sex. All of those things that are happening to women in our country, they don't go pay attention to never like things like those. I must speak with them lecturer and they harass in a school for letting them sleep with them before they get a good grade. I know it's been a while, we haven't heard about that, but it's happening in Sierra Leone. They are taking advantage of small picking where they come on high school, all 18, 19, we don't know any better. Then they abuse them, use them. Women don't get right in the country. The only time you get rights now when you stand like this with them. If you don't stand with them, you have no right. If you're a woman, you go against them, they'll deal with you like an animal. That is the society that we have. That is the issue we're talking about. But yet the woman they come up for protest. Look at them. A bunch of filthies. Then they come protest. And when I say filthy, I mean just the act of filthy. I'm not calling them filthy per se. It's just the act of them coming here to do this protest. Filthy. Filthy act. Very disingenuous. Very unpatriotic. Not loyal to their country. Suicide and loyalty lie. So Fatima Bio. They say they call Marabio for intervene because they sing Kokoros by West. That is the nation that we have. This is how useless these people are. This is how foolish these people are. The serious issues, they're not talking about it. The electricity problem, the sanitation issues, the water in the country, the prostitution rise, the kush, the drug epidemic. They're not going to parliament to go and protest the kush. To call on Marabio to stop the importation of all of these chemicals that are coming through. They did not go to parliament for go protest against Boleos, the biggest drug lord that is currently occupying Sierra Leone, where in convoy is bigger than Marabio in convoy, who is at Chapter 1 nightclub every day. He has his own special suite. They would not talk about that. They would not protest against that. But no, they're coming here to protest for Fatima Bio because they sing Ikokoros. This is how useless and nasty these people are. This is how unforgiving these acts are. These people are God-forsaken, man. These people will continue to suffer for the rest of their life. Their generations will continue to suffer. This cycle is going to continue. This vicious cycle of continuous poverty, foolishness is going to continue. Because these people, they pass on down their gene to the generations here unborn. And that is why we have a responsibility to clean up that country at some point and say enough is enough. Very low-minded indeed. Minawa Jimmy. Very low-minded people. Look at them.
And the whole Africa country, it lead. They can't humiliate her this kind way. They don't humiliate the whole woman there. And we
fumble them, they call me Ivory Glove. We always they appear for the news. Well, today, if you don't see, it's now cross-section of women them holding a parliament presently in relation to waiting they happen at parliament. Waiting then due to the first lady, they're not happy. Will be suicide members of parliament will be seen by the first lady. So as you see, most of them women they had events and anger from the head of the market woman. And one more say politics. Now Dr. Fatima Jabibio. When the woman that will not see Mafuna Fatima and Odogu them. Who know them in fact. Do your president Bio talk to your followers them. Because we know mama will care for.
What's if Fatima be don't know this country? Who's first lady they don't do ever in history of Sierra Leone? No first lady don't ever do it. It's very hardworking. He get the endurance. Everything for Fatima. One country, one people. President Bio with the woman, the officer BP. Who don't tire of this humiliation. You can at this country and tell me say you give me 30% quota for with the woman them. But you know they reflect. Because if they don't start to humiliate with mama, when I'm the first lady of this country, they use me, they humiliate me, they throw me in the street, the first lady, now the woman when they encourage me for staying at SPP. President Bio with the talk with pen with the woman of SPP. We don't tire with this up.
Guys, like I said, I don't even want to cover nonsense like this. But I just want to show you the mentality and the low IQ of these people and why Sierra Leoneans will continue to suffer. In the well of parliament, this is where these women are. In parliament, they allow them to go to parliament for this kind of charade, for this kind of nonsense. But when serious Sierra Leoneans stand up to protest, they kill them. Hi, guys. I think I've done enough. It's 6:43. Let me take some of the comments. Sister Kamara Kadiatu say, well done. Um, yeah. Well done, brother. No worries, sister. No worries. Um, oh no, that color is not gonna help. Guys, don't mind me. I'm trying to see if I could switch up on the color. Probably this one would. Let me see. Okay, this one helps. Okay, so yeah, Sister Kadiatu Kamara say, well done, brother. I think James Kagbo was saying I was making a point, but that's the point. You cannot give what you don't have. He himself is illegitimate, of course. Yeah. I guess it was talking about when I was talking about the Ivory Coast, stuff. Um, and then my brother Fudi Kamara said, keep pushing, bro. My bro, it's not easy, but we'll try. And then People's Power, of course, exactly. And People's Power, I tell them, I don't know exactly what it was at that point that he referred to us, tell them. And then I have Manawa. Let me see if I can make this a little bigger. Manawa Jimmy, many low-minded people are leaving the country. It's becoming more and more obvious how good education, self-educating, and social awareness. And that's the thing, Manawa Jimmy. For me, honestly, I don't really base this on education anymore, right? I'll be realistic with you. I don't base it so much on education anymore because certain things are just common sense. You would think that common sense should prevail, and people should know that this doesn't make sense for go protest for Fatima Bibi because they're seeing Kokoros para. You would think, but again, of course, education plays a part. But there are lots of Sierra Leoneans that are not Western education because maybe that's what we're talking about. That are intelligent enough and would not be a part of this kind of foolishness and nonsense. Lots of Sierra Leoneans in the villages, for that matter, too, in the towns and provinces. Matter of fact, the level of awareness in the villages far outweigh don't surpass the level of awareness in the big towns. The people in the small villages and towns where WhatsApp they reach, whilst because we've been able to reach them on WhatsApp, through the amount of, the reach that we have now, because WhatsApp is the most powerful tool. Facebook, YouTube, all these other platforms that we use, yeah, it's good, but it's like a small circle, right? In Sierra Leone, most of the people that can afford to watch my live like I'm doing it, if they're in Sierra Leone, they have access to a little bit of that. How many people at village get access to data for watch Facebook and YouTube? They don't. So I think like WhatsApp is the biggest. When you talk about big, it's like on WhatsApp. When people like us with a pull message now WhatsApp, at least they reach the 3-4 million people that have access to cell phones. That is the reach we're talking about. I don't really care about like the YouTube and Facebook. Maybe internationally, yes, because you have a bigger audience. But as far as Sierra Leone, YouTube, Facebook, it's just a small circle, right? It's nothing, But anyways. But yeah, I don't think I did based on my own education. And sister, I mean, watch for I see you crying there. But this is yeah, the TA emoji. But it's ridiculous, guys. This is what is actually happening, in our country. With everything else, the important problem that we'll get for talk about. this is what people are doing. You know, God help our country. That's all I'll say. But until we get some Moses, then we will come in freely. I think it's time we have to, because it goes back. These guys they're not care again. They're in just one for get a one party state system and consolidate power to themselves. That is what they're doing because they don't see say the education has reached the people. So because the education has reached the people, the only other option they have now is to take away that power from the people. Yeah, because you can be educated, but if you don't get the military and the police on your side, you don't have the institutions on your side, and they use them against you. That is what is actually happening. So they are all coming together, both APC and SLPP, to have a one-party state system, which is going to be their downfall for sure. Because just like, you know, Paul Kagame in Rwanda, the Tutsis, they marched from, Congo for go inside Rwanda, to take up, power. You know, it's you know, it's the same thing that's gonna happen. Yeah, you know, that's the same thing that's gonna happen because no matter how long it takes, people are not gonna fall for, that nonsense. At some point, people are gonna say, enough is enough, and we will do what we have to do to take over. So that's yeah, that's what it is. Let me share this last video with you guys so you guys can see what I'm talking about and take it from there. Let's see this. It was Paul Kagame back in 1996, 1994. In 100 days, up to 1 million people were killed, most of them Tutsi. See? And now Paul Kagame, of course, has been in power for almost 25 years. But this was how, they marched into the capital city because they were tired of the genocide, right? Of the Hutus killing the Tutsis. And they said, no, we've had enough and we're going to take over and march into that country. So at some point, somebody's going to rise up in Sierra Leone and do the right thing by the people because they know for sure that the political class has actually, decided to go full throttle, just like they did in 1965, which is why it's very important with Albert Magai, passing the one-party state system because Albert Magai of the SLPP actually did, right? And this is why I talk about, again, I talk about the proportional representation being used. We all know that the only reason why we used the proportional representation in 1996 was because the war was ongoing and in certain places we could not access them. And we used it because James Jonah recommended that, right? But after we did the 1991 Constitution, we added Section 38A, to include, that in the Constitution to make up for the fact that it was not in our Constitution when we used it in 1996, right? So we had to revise the 1991 Constitution, which was already done before 1996. So we revised the 1991 Constitution to reflect the fact that we used the proportional representation system, even though it was not in the Constitution. So no, it was no frown. Nobody frowned at the 1996 situation because, again, remember, Malabio did not want elections. He said peace before elections. So that's why he sent soldiers and they connived with the RAF to cut off our people's hands. People that were trying to vote. They say, you won't vote? Long sleeve or short sleeve, and your arms were chopped off, right? We remember all of those history. So we are looking at all of that. We say we don't want to go back there. And the African Express also described the proportional representation system like you use the dirty road instead of use the tar road when are the constituency-based elections. So these are all things, that we have to take into consideration and pay attention to, right? So that is why people like myself are talking about these things. Proportional representation is just another path down for lead us into another war, because when you take away the power from the people, it's only so long before somebody step up like how Ali Kaba did and go to the Mataba and go to Libya and come with the revolution, the RAF na Sierra Leone, right? It was Ali Kaba, SLPP. It was the former permanent representative, to the United Nations for Sierra Leone, and of course we succeeded in getting him out of there. We kick him out of there because there's no way somebody like Adani with that kind of a reputation for the represent Sierra Leone. Because if Charles Taylor did not jail, they like Ali Kaba for in jail, right? Of course, Foday Sanko don't die. And then we also say Malabio's sister Agnes Bio was with Foday Sanko as well. Even representing, I think at the Abidjan Peace Accord, she was there representing the area. So we know all of these things, right? And we see the history. But they woman, they are them foolish one there. They're all, my age mates, them or something. When they pass me, they don't even know about these kinds of things. This is the population that we have, ill-informed population. Because if these people are properly informed, I'm telling you, they support certain people, regardless of like your tribe or like your region or like your political party you belong. You will not support them because you put your country over everything else. You know. So it's a shame, guys, but this is the reality, and this is what we're dealing with. And I think I'll leave it right here. All right. Let me not keep rambling. I need to sign into my other email now and check some emails and get with some folks that need my attention. But anyways, bye bye everybody. Have a good one. Thank you guys.